A special YouTube edition of the Indy Ball Report is coming to you right now. We have some COVID-19 and some other interesting stories to update you on. So get ready for a YouTube edition of the Indy Ball Report podcast. All right, we are back again for like the third time in 3 days, third time in 5 days, something like that, you know?
Something like that.
Yeah. Any case, in case you didn't enjoy the interview, or you did enjoy the interview, more than likely you did enjoy it, because we did a very good job on it, at least my opinion.
Oh, yes, we did.
We have some extra content for you here. I'm strapped in with my Labatt Blue Canadian Pilsner and a notebook full of notes here to break down some of the interesting happenings from the past week in Independent League Baseball. Granted, there's not too much happening in Independent League Baseball at the moment, as everything's kind of at a standstill with this COVID-19 business. And that's where we're going to begin today's show. We're going to start off with a couple of statements from some leagues. Well, really a statement from one league, and some updates that are happening as a result of this COVID-19 business. So let's get going. Let's get it kicked off with the Pacific Association's statement on the matter. Now, you probably would have just seen it tweeted out today, or not tweeted out, but posted today, at least on Instagram. However, the statement's been out for a handful of days now. So we were going to cover this before they tagged us in the post, but once they did, it became a must-do for us. So I will read that statement now. From the Pacific Association, San Francisco, California. As we prepare for our season in June, the Pacific Association of Professional Baseball Clubs and each of our teams in Sonoma, Napa, and Vallejo and Fairfield, in consultation with health and wellness experts, have decided to keep our plans for our summer season, in all hopes that mean the mass spread of the coronavirus becomes controlled. There is an unknown stage for the next few months. We will be providing regular updates as health and safety progressions transpire over the next 30 days and beyond. The Pacific Association will continue to monitor this fluid situation and make adjustments to our operations as warranted. Please join our league and each of our teams in offering support and sympathy to our friends, family in our local communities around the country and the globe. Together, we will get through this. So that's what they have to say on the matter. So they're confident that an early June release or an early June start to the season will be plausible. What are we thinking about that plausibility?
Well, so from what I've heard everywhere, which is the same media that a lot of other people have, obviously for us it's hard to judge, right? On the East Coast right now, we are getting hit very hard. The media resources that I'm listening to and using, New York Times and others, are talking about a very difficult situation that's in this New York, New Jersey, Connecticut metro area. So I think there's some serious differentiation to be made between what might be happening out west and what is happening here. So I think it is possible. I don't know if I'm confident in that, but I think it is certainly possible that June deadline could happen for the start of the season. However, that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. This is all a very, very fluid situation. However, at this point, it does seem plausible, or at least possible.
See, I hate to be the doom and gloom here, but I'm going to fill that role at the moment. California's getting hit pretty bad too. I mean, they've made no bones about it. They saw this coming, and I believe after Washington, they were next up to get smacked, and then it was New York, and then New Jersey, and now it's, kind of spiraling out of control as it appears to be. So I'm a little bit less excited that they are going to hit their mark. I think it's still possible, like you're saying, that they very well could start in the beginning of June if it gets under control and they get everything going and whatnot. And I hope it does, because I believe Joe's Black Sox are supposed to be out there helping them in the beginning of June, doing their spring training with them. So hopefully, for everybody's sake and everybody that's involved, and obviously the well-being of everybody, that's being affected or could be affected by this, it's under control and they're able to play. And luckily, they all are in that San Francisco Bay Area. They're very closely knit together here. So if one's good to go, they're all probably likely good to go. And given the conditions that they play in, it's not like they have these giant, massive stadiums they need to sterilize and wipe down, which definitely works in the favor of their public parks, their public areas for the most part. So you would assume that the local governments would do a good enough job sanitizing it and then giving you the okay. Plus, another thing that works in their favor is, and this is kind of odd that, things that normally we would say, this isn't a good thing, are actually it's turned into a good thing, which is they typically don't average that high of an attendance number. So if they're good to go for mass gatherings of, say, 500, 1,000 or more, they could ideally just keep playing. They could just be fine going because they're not normally drawing more than a couple hundred fans a game.
That's right, yeah.
So that's something that definitely works in their favor. So I could see why they'd be more optimistic than, say, a Frontier League or anything higher than that, which draws, several thousand a game. Right. Or at the bare minimum, 1,400, where you basically need all restrictions lifted to get those games back up and running. I'm just still a little skeptical because California has been hit very hard. So I need to see some more progress made over the next 8 weeks before obviously we'll know in the next 8 weeks whether or not they're starting or not. But still, I'm going to need to see a little bit more before I'm able to say confidently one way or the other whether it's going to happen or not. However, I'm leaning towards the side of they're probably going to have to push it back a week or two, which if the only casualty is a week or two, it's really not that bad.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a very fair statement. It's a very fair way of looking at it. I mean, it's hard to say with any certainty about anything that's going on at this point. And if somebody's able to say something with certainty, they're probably not telling you the truth at this point. So it's really very difficult to judge these things. I will say, for the most part, anyway, that this Pacific Association, for all of the reasons that you've mentioned, are particularly in a good position because they are in a smaller kind of league. They're dealing with different kind of things. They're dealing with smaller attendances, easier to wipe down the places that they play. All of these things are factors. But I think you're right. Also, California has been hit hard, and that's just a reality. And until this becomes less of an imminent public threat to the health of every single person that will be at that ballpark, then you're not going to see any baseball played. So I think you're right. I think there's a possibility on middle of June, but probably more likely early July, hopefully sometime within that range. But I mean, I think the longer it goes, the harder it's going to be for leagues like this to kind of get themselves off the ground. So hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
Yep, of course. And so with that, we'll shift to a league we just mentioned, the Frontier League, which we've already mentioned that some of their trials have been pushed. Another one has been pushed. The Frontier League has pushed their Allentown tryout from April 4th to April 17th. I don't think that's really going to do terribly much. If New Jersey's been hit hard, Allentown's, what would you say, from the New Jersey border, about 30 minutes, roughly?
Oh, yeah, not even. Maybe like 25.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not like it's now. Granted, out in more western New Jersey, I don't think it's been as bad as eastern New Jersey, just because population-wise and proximity to New York. Yeah, it hasn't been
as bad in western New Jersey, but still cases. There's still cases.
Exactly. So you're also going to have a bunch of people traveling in, and with various travel restrictions, I gotta say, I think this one's going to be pushed back even further than that date. But I think they're holding out some hope that it's under control. But when you push it back, and we're 5 days away from the original scheduled date, and now you're just pushing it back another 2 weeks, it seems more like delaying the inevitable on my front there. So unfortunately, they are moving that back, and all registered players for the original date, they're still good to go. You're still registered. You can still go to that April 17th date. My mistake. I said 13. I meant 17th. Still 2 weeks, but regardless.
Yeah, I mean, that April 17th date doesn't seem like that's going to happen. I think it's very unlikely that April 17th is going to be any different than it is. Here we're sitting on March 30th. I don't think that it's going to be very much different from that. It's going to be a lot more cases, probably, especially in this region by that point. So I wouldn't assume that's going to happen on the 17th. I think the earliest, again, you're going to see that is mid-June. You're going to see a lot of these things in mid-June, maybe because if we peak in this region, things in this part of the country will start to open up maybe middle to end of May. But really, before you see any type of return to normalcy, the earliest is gonna have to be mid to late May, and that is my most optimistic at this point.
Exactly. I'm on the same front with you there. Just quickly wrapping up on the tryout bit. Only people that will now be allowed in attendance are the players and essential staff. So everyone else, you're not allowed there. I think beforehand it was an open tryout where you could at least have some fans come and watch, but that has been canned there. So the most interesting development in this whole COVID situation, though, we go to now, the other day, I believe it was Friday, the American Association Commissioner Joshua Schwab talked to the Saints. I forget who exactly on them. It was their head of broadcasting. They did their Saints Live bit, and they had a about 20-minute long conversation, and it was fairly good. I took some notes from it, and we'll go through the more interesting points here. Now, as of right now, you're still targeting their May 19th opening day. Their regularly scheduled open day is the day they're still hoping for. I'm not necessarily sure. I know Minnesota just got a stay-at-home order, the same thing that Maryland got today, and New Jersey's had for about the past 10 days, and New York's had for about the past 2 weeks. So I'm not sure that's going to wind up happening, but hopefully it does. They cut their spring training down to just 7 days now. I believe they cut 3 days off of that. We have yet to know an official drop-dead date, so a date where if this goes to, and this is just a hypothetical, this is not me reporting something, it's me speculating something. And even that call of speculation is a bit touch and go. There's me just giving an example, really. If, let's say, we got to July 25th, and that was their drop dead date, if we get to the 25th and there's no baseball being played or no baseball activities, then the season just would be off. Now, we don't have a date like that yet. So that could change, of course. They're willing to expand the season too if needed. So they are willing to play into September. Normally they wrap up their season around the same time the Frontier League does, which is like September 15th at the latest. They're willing to extend it to play baseball throughout the month if need be too. So that's something there.
That's good.
Yep. And then a decision on opening day will not be reached until April 17th. So April 17th seems like a big day to watch out here for. Now, there obviously is a caveat attached to that. If there is a federal or several state mandates that go down to say, look, there's no mass gatherings above X amount of people here, and before May 19th comes, then obviously they're going to have to make that decision before the April 17th gets here. So unless there's a governmental guideline, they're going to make a decision on the 17th, and then obviously that is pliable as well. So, I'll let you jump in here before I continue on this front.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say about the American Association, again, very classy league, a very good and well-run league, so they'll make the right choice. I'm confident of that. They'll listen to the health experts, and they'll definitely listen to the government on these matters. And I think what's most important to remember here is May 19th is not that far away. We're talking about a little bit over a month. And again, we're in such a dire situation that doesn't seem to have the horizon be that much closer than it was a couple of weeks ago when we first really started talking about this. So unfortunately, I do believe that again, as we've remarked many times, just because, particularly for the reasons that we stated, the Pacific Association is going to have an easier time getting open. It's going to be harder for the Frontier League, and especially even harder for the Atlantic League, because you're just dealing with higher volumes of people. People like going to Frontier League games. We have been
and American Association games, for that matter.
Right? How many have we been? Collectively to hundreds.
Well, technically, Frontier, none yet. We went through a shit ton of Can-Am games.
Can-Am, right. Hundreds of Can-Am games. And I assume that, obviously it's equivalent now since they're merged. So I think overall what we're seeing here is just a lot of different things going on within the Frontier League.
American Association.
The American Association. I think the American Association will probably do the right thing, and I just think it'll have to be moved back.
Exactly. I think we're going to get to that point, too. Each team has sent out a memo, though, regarding their ballpark sanitation, their plan going forward, which I thought was very good to have. I was listening before we went on to an interview on the Jack Michael show with Red Hawks GM Matt Rao, I believe is how his name's pronounced. And he was saying that the league has contacts with in the Major League Baseball and the NBA. So they're getting the same information that those guys are getting. So I imagine they're staying really up to date and they're willing to kind of change things here. And you made an interesting point here, how we're in the thick of it here. And we're judging off of a place that's currently the epicenter. I mean, northern New Jersey is about as close as you're going to get to New York. And if we're in the thick of it now, places like Texas, places like Minnesota, Iowa, the Dakotas, that have yet to really been hit that hard. Certainly they have their cases, but they're not anywhere near what the Eastern Seaboard's getting right now. So I gotta imagine the closer we get to their opening day, it's gonna get worse for them while it's getting better out here. So at least with the Atlantic League, that has the vast majority of their teams on the East Coast, they can at least say, okay, well, we're going to have to push our start date back, but there is hope to have a season going by maybe mid-June, July possibly. So they at least have that.
Because it's starting to peak now. And
exactly. Like we're approaching the peak.
We are. I mean, the wave is starting to crest, but it's, very, very dangerous and very deadly thing we're dealing with. And the problem is, again, we have data. The scientists have data. They report on the data every day, but the data changes every day. So it's hard to make these prognostications.
Exactly. It's very difficult there. And then the one last main point I wanted to make here was our two main points, really. They're hopeful to have at the bare minimum an 80-game season. So that tells me off the bat they're expecting to have to move this back, but obviously they want to wait till the last possible moment to officially move it back because it creates a whole slew of problems.
Of course.
And obviously they can't just play games in front of nobody or play games in front of, a crowd of 250 or 500 people. Nope. That's just not sustainable for them. They're too much of a gate revenue generated fans. By what I mean by gate revenue, in case people that aren't familiar with the term, it's the ticket sales, the concession sales, the merchandise sales in the stadium, the 50-50 raffle sales, anything that's done in the stadium physically in person, that would be considered gate revenue. So someone coming through that opening gate spending money is what gate revenue means, but they're too dependent on it.
Yeah, they are 100% too dependent on it. There's no way that you're going to be able to do anything close to it with the gate revenue if you only have 500 people. If you have nobody, the league just won't be able to do it. There's no physical way that they'll have enough money to pay players and do what they need to do. It just won't be possible.
Exactly. So they'll just have to not play. Although what I will say is they did announce they will expand the rosters too. I don't know to what size, but they are going to make the rosters larger here if they have to condense games and play more games closely together. So it won't be as strenuous on the players. So that's good to see, not only because you'll have obviously more jobs for more ball players, but also because it clearly shows they're looking out for the well-being of their players. So,
right. I think the American Association is always looking out for the well-being of its players. It's always looking out for the well-being of its fans. And like I said before, they will do the right thing. The right decision will be made based upon the guidelines. I have no doubt about that. I am a little bit more skeptical with some of the smaller leagues who really do need this season to happen financially. I think all the leagues need this season to happen financially, but particularly the smaller leagues whose survival may be contingent upon this season happening is a little bit different situation in terms of listening to health experts and being cautious. I think they'll do within the bounds of legality, but I'm not sure if they're going to do necessarily the best information possible when will be passed down there. So it'll be a very difficult situation.
Of course. So I think with that, we can move off of this depressing COVID talk that we keep hitting on for 20 minutes. So 20 minutes a week here, but we'll move on now to our final news topic of the day before we discuss just some personal stuff. The Revolution have added another new space to their ballpark. They added what is called the White Claw Terrace. Everyone that knows me knows I love a good White Claw. And that will be exactly. We've got great experiences with White Claws.
Fantastic experiences.
100%. In any case, the White Claw Terrace will be put behind sections 25 and 26, and it'll be kind of a general admission wooden deck area. Has a drink rail. And it's going to be just a nice place to kind of sit down and watch a game from. So it's going to be nice there. They started building it about a week before this whole COVID business started. And now construction is obviously halted on it. But they still do expect it to be open this year at some point. So hopefully that gets done there, which, just more amenities. It's always nice to point out.
Absolutely. Those amenities are great. And it sounds like a lot of fun. I love that they got White Claw as the sponsor of that. That's a really, really good marketing move. Who doesn't love a good White Claw? I mean, come on.
Everybody does.
So over 21, of course.
No laws when you're drinking claws.
That's right. No laws when you're drinking claws. I mean, just, again, a smart move. We've talked about it many times, so I won't go into too much detail, but amenities are great. Amenities are what drives fans to the game. And more than ever, when people are going to be, tentative to go to games to begin with, you really need to have the amenities to get them to the ballpark once this is all over. So I really like this. Again, a really good addition by them.
100% agree. Especially the point you bring up there. This is probably the best time to put it in. Same thing with Somerset with their Next 20 initiative. To put in these brand new areas in the ballpark is definitely going to be a nice draw to get these fans back out here that are already going to be very kind of cautious going out to the ballpark. And as we're going to announce in just a few minutes, we're going to get some insight into that later this week. So with that, I suppose we could switch it over to the personal news. First off, I just want to thank everyone for the giant response we've seen on the so far the first half of this week's episode, the Joe Torre interview section. Again, thanks to Joe for coming on, and especially thanks to everyone that's listened. We've seen a great response so far. It's already, I think, our third most listened to episode since we started.
Yep, it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so to see that kind of thunderous support definitely tells us we're doing something right, that you guys like the content. And so we're going to continue to do as much as we can. And we got a handful of more interviews planned for you in the coming weeks here that we'll announce for certain in just a second here. But, and then I just want to quickly preface the TJ interview will be out not tomorrow, but on Wednesday. And that's also a pretty good episode. We go and we discuss a lot of similarities between the two and just go into a nice conversation about, I think our conversation wound up being as long as the episode itself was. So I'm very interested to see how that will go, how the response to that will go. But
yep, I think that'd be very interesting. We do kind of break down the two interviews. They interlace in interesting ways. They mesh in interesting ways. And I really do think both of our interviewees handled themselves very professionally. I was very happy with the content that we got. And of course, so thankful for everyone out there listening. We love this stuff. We love talking about independent league baseball, coming on here every week. And it's really gives us something to look forward to when we know that people are responding and people care about these things. So again, big thank you to Black Sox Baseball Nation out there and Joe Torre for coming out and supporting us. And those who I'm sure will support TJ and the Road Warriors. Again, we're just really happy, and the Pecos League and everybody very happy with the support we've garnered so far. And we just want to keep going and see everybody listening every week.
Exactly. And it's because of that support we are able to nail down these next two guests here. So I'm going to start with, I'll start with the one we scheduled first, technically. So we still do have to actually schedule an official time during the day to get this interview, but we've already agreed on a date. We've agreed that we're going to put it up and discuss with this guy. We're going to have Craig Maddox on of the Prospect Dugout, the guy that's running the training camp, or not the training camps, the I guess tryout camps for the Atlantic League. He's going to be on. He used to play for Southern Maryland. He's working with the Giants organization right now. And we're going to talk to him about the whole tryout process, what the camp's going to be like, and the whole nine there. So that will be something to watch out for. That interview should be out on April 11th. So what would that be? Episode 57, I believe?
Yep, I believe so, yeah.
Yep. So that will drop then. We're very happy to have him on. We've been talking with him for quite some time to get him on, and of course at that point we couldn't use the phone, and now that the phone's working, we're going to be really excited to have him on. And while Craig's a topic of discussion, I also want to congratulate him and his wife on their new daughter.
Yes, congratulations on that. We're happy and excited to have him on. Again, Prospect Dugout, very good organization. A lot of respect for them, so it'll be very interesting to see, what happens when he comes on and have him talking about that a little bit. It'll be a very good thing, I think, and we'll bring some good questions to the table as well.
Exactly, and so with that, we're going to go to the one that probably is going to draw a hair more interest, I would say, at least. And we've been talking with this guy for about a month or so now. It's really started back when me and Will did the article from February on the Atlantic League guys leaving for other leagues. And so we reached out to this guy for comment. And he gave us a little bit of a comment where he's like, I didn't acknowledge the trend and whatnot here, but I'd love to come on the show and explain it to your listeners and explain my perspective. So they're like, oh, we'd love to have you. And since then, we've been trying to hammer out a time and a date. And if there is a silver lining with this whole coronavirus thing, it's given us all a lot of time here. So coming out on Friday, episode 56 will feature the Long Island Ducks president and GM, Michael Pfaff. It was a huge get to have him, and we're really excited to have him on. We're going to discuss this player transaction bit, so that'll be some nice levity from this COVID business. We're also going to discuss how the Ducks and the league in general are handling this whole COVID business right now and kind of moving forward. And then who knows where the discussion will go from there. But we're really excited to have both of these guys on. We're excited to confirm that they both will be on the show. Pfaff this week, Maddox next week, and who knows going forward. But that was the big announcement that I teased on social media. So hopefully you guys are as excited about these interviews as we are.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm so excited for this. We really have, again, we talk about class organizations and independent league baseball all the time. There is no classier organization than the Long Island Ducks. So to have the guy who's really at the helm of that is going to be such an interesting interview for us, and such a great way for our listeners to get to know really the operations and what it takes to run a successful organization in the Atlantic League like the Ducks at such a high level. And then obviously getting those answers that we have long litigated both on the show and in your article with Will, with pertaining to the kind of different things that we have going on with people leaving the Atlantic League. I mean, players have left the Atlantic League, and we've litigated it, like I said, many times, quite literally, in the article. And so I think it'll be interesting to get someone's take on it who's within the Atlantic League, running one of the teams, and really understands kind of the whole scope of things that maybe we don't have full access to. So it'll be really good to get his opinion on that as well. And just so excited for everybody to hear from him. And then, of course, Prospect Dugout, a really big get for us as well. So it'll be very interesting to hear from both those guys. I'm very excited for it.
Exactly. I'm really excited for it too. And I think with that, we've kind of talked about everything that we need to talk about here. We're at about a half hour long here. So I got a lot of editing to do to get this thing out and ready to the people here. So I will do, I guess, a weird version of our plugs here, because keep in mind, this is a YouTube video. That's the odd thing about this thing too. That's not going up on the main feed, but hopefully you guys enjoy it. Yep.
The tube you, the YouTube.
Yeah. You want to find us on social media, you can hit us up on Twitter at IndieBallPod or on Instagram at IndieBallReport. And on that main one, we have our March Madness tournament running. We are currently in the Elite Eight and will be at the Final Four by the end of the week, where on this week's edition, we will more than likely wind up crowning our champion of the March Madness bracket tournament. So you can hit us up there. You can also go to Indie Ball Report James on Instagram to bug the shit out of my co-host with
that's right,
with interesting tidbits. Or you could ask him to buy you a jersey. I don't think he'll do it, but you could ask.
It's always worth a shot. I mean, I'm a generous sort.
And now, right there, you just invited a lot of DMs. So we're going to leave that in. But
that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, you can find everything that we do. You can find the article we reference on our website, www.indieballreport.com. Or you could hit up our actual main feed podcast on TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, Podomatic. Let's see, where else? Google Play and Apple Podcasts, of course. Really, anywhere you can find podcasts, we're on it. So be sure to rate, review, and subscribe for more content. And being that we're already on the YouTube channel, we're Indie Ball Report Podcast on YouTube. And be sure to subscribe, comment, the standard YouTube plugs below on that. So with that said, do we have anything else left to add for this episode?
Nope, just the same messages last week. Everybody stay safe, stay indoors, stay healthy, and take care of yourselves both mentally and physically, and we'll see you back next week.
And of course, we echo the sentiments of everyone on social media. Thank you to all the healthcare professionals putting their lives on the line to help other people, of course, that as well. And until next time, don't forget to play ball.